be open with you, I have an extended fan club at most places I go. But I respect those people. That's part of democracy. They should feel open to share their views. That's one of the wonders of our country. One of the things that comes with that, though, is keeping focus on what the real issues are. Because those are issues of real concern to real people. And as I went through and had to make decisions on our budget and tax programs, there were some very difficult decisions that needed to be made that do negatively impact people. And it's very tough from a personal side to go through and analyze those things and say, here's ones we need to make, and here's ones we can't make. Because we were facing about $1.5 billion deficit. Now the important thing is I always try to step back and not focus just on the moment, but focus on what is the vision and what is the strategy and where do we need to go as a state. Because if you step back, when I was out campaigning, as I went through the process to be elected your governor, which I am so honored to be, even in these difficult times, I outlined a vision, a plan, and an attitude of action to say, this isn't about one item. This is about the reinvention of our state. And there were two critical points that were subsets of that. Number one, the need for more and better jobs in our state. And second, keeping our young people in this state and building for a long-term future. Those are the driving principles that we need to stay focused on. Because when you talk about a budget, we cannot cut ourselves prosperity. That's not the way to look at things. What we need to do is to create an environment for success. The role of government is not to create jobs, but to create an environment where those jobs can be created and flourish. And do it in a way that our young people get excited to say, this is the place to be because of quality of life, because of job opportunity, because of all those things. So it really comes down to having an environment of shared sacrifice in the short term, where many of us need to take a step back. And as you notice from my extended fan club, I don't think I've missed many people in terms of asking for some sacrifice. But it's not a sacrifice just for the sake of giving up something. It's a sacrifice to gain something together. About us winning together and moving forward together. And that's one of the great challenges that we need to go through change on. It's the cultural transformation of Michigan. It's not about passing one individual law that does this or does that. It's about transforming our culture, reinventing that culture. Because if you step back and look at us, we have been too negative for too long. We spent far too long looking in the rearview mirror to say, this is the Michigan we had, how do we keep it? Even when we recognize it's broken. So I really appreciate the mayor's comments there. Thank you, Mayor. And it's about not being divisive. Think about the conflicts of the last few years. There was a lot of talk. Was there any real action that made a difference? Very little. So it's to make that transformation. And it comes down to being positive. So the words you're going to hear out of me, even with my extended fan club, I respect them. It's about bringing relentless positive action to the table. It's about standing up during tough times and staying positive. And about taking action. About doing things, not just talking about things. And that action is all geared towards forward-looking movement. The easy illustration I'll give you is our tax system and our budget system, both of which are broken, and both of which were an accumulation of 40-plus years of junk. They might have been done for the right reasons at the right time, but the world has changed, and now we've got a system that we all know doesn't work, but we still have people trying to defend it. Again, I respect their defense. That's human nature. Everyone likes change until it affects you. And then it doesn't look so hot. But what we need to do as part of human nature is then step back to say, how does it benefit all of us? And that's what we're looking at today. So it's about taking a tax system that picked winners and losers. They had far too many exceptions, loopholes, things left out of it. Had tax credits that weren't really right for the long-term benefit of our citizens. And I mentioned that when I did the tax message. That many of us don't realize we've given $2 billion worth of tax credits out over the next 4 years. So I walk into the budget situation for 2013. We don't start at zero. We start at minus $500 million. And I doubt many people in this room knew we had spent that money. So it's to clean that up and to say simple, fair, and efficient. Regardless of your type of income, once you pass a certain threshold, once you're making enough money to have a good life, isn't it fair that we should all pay the same tax rate? And that applies to people that are winning and losing in that process. We have business people here suffering from the Michigan business tax, a double tax, that we're essentially being asked to pay over 10% of their income. That's not how you create a job. You create a job by creating a fair environment for them to succeed. And so what does our proposal do? For most small business people, it asks them to pay the same rate you and I are making on our salary. That's fair. That encourages free enterprise. And that's the kind of thing we need to do. So when you hear people talking about the tax system, about how they may have been hurt or what it's done to them, ask them the question, where do you end up? After you make the movement that we're asking people to make, where do you end up? Is that fair with respect to all the rest of us? The answer is yes. Our budget system. We had a budget system that we haven't really balanced our budget for a long time, folks. And when I say a long time, literally I could probably go back in decades. And why do I say that? It's not just the cash in and cash out of our budget. But we were wrapping up a credit card bill while we were going. In terms of pension liability, in terms of post-retiree medical liabilities, in terms of these tax credits, in terms of other items. Our credit card, at just the state level, let alone the municipal level, is at least $47 billion. That's a pretty good credit card balance, folks. We've sort of maxed out. And the part is, in all those prior budgets, we weren't even making minimum payments. It's time to make minimum payments. I'm proud to say I'm a CPA. I think it's about time we had somebody that was a CPA showed up in Lansing. So I can tell you, we not only did a one-year budget for 2012, but we did a budget for 2013. And that did make a difference in how you review things and analyze things and looked at the longer term. Because we need to go beyond that for the future. But just in terms of that analysis, what I can tell you is the budget we proposed for 2012, what we're showing for 2013, there are 2 years there, not 1 year, but even a second year, by doing the actions that we're asking, that we will be fiscally sound, balanced, without any accounting gimmicks, without any one-time funds, and making minimum payments on those $47 billion in liabilities. That's the kind of budget we deserve, and that's how you create jobs. It's creating an environment of success that business knows, the culture and the climate.